All right. So this is probably the most important segment of all of the training. Now you want to refer back to this whenever you're confused or you're not really sure what to do. Use this as your compass or your bearings. Okay. So on the right hand side, you have access to a few key items or key components. The very first one is called the 3C worksheet. This is normally a worksheet that I would go over with a client verbally, and I wouldn't necessarily say to them, "Hey, John, let's go ahead and fill out the 3C worksheet." What I would actually do is that I would have, for example, let me go ahead and click on it so you can get a better understanding. Um, Essentially, what I would do is I would, of course, have a conversation with the borrower or the client, and I would just ask the questions that are on the worksheet. Okay, it's kind of fill in the blank. Are three things, right? And we want to make sure that the client has at least one of these three things. The three C's stand for credit, cash reserves or equivalents, and last but not least, collateral. Okay. Um, an easy rule of thumb when it comes to commercial finance and also for lending in general is that you lend on three things: credibility, cash reserves, and also collateral. And it can be in any combination of the three, but you at least want to have one of the three. Okay. So when you're speaking with that, with that individual, you're not necessarily saying, "Hey, Bob, give me your first, last, middle name, middle initial, all that stuff." What you're really doing is you're trying to figure out, boom, credit. What's credit? What is the credit score? What are we seeking here? What's the amount? Um, do you happen to have any collateral? Okay, tell me more. Tell me more about that. When did you buy it? Oh, okay. At what amount? Right. Would you say that the current value is of that tractor, of that car, of that business, of that ice cream machine? Okay, and so forth. That's really what we're looking for. And then you want to, we want them to reiterate, okay, what's the purpose of this? Is it an acquisition? Are you buying a business? Are you refinancing? Are you buying additional ice cream machines for your ice cream parlor shop? You want to figure out what is the purpose, okay? What is the purpose? What's the primary use? All right. In real estate finance, we call that uses or sources and uses. But in commercial finance excuse me, commercial finance, you just say what's the primary usage. Okay. And a blanket that you'll learn when it comes to business loans is working capital. Okay. People will put almost anything under working capital. All right. Now, uh, when it comes to the universal application, this would be a PDF, one page application. And the purpose of this is really just to have the client fill this out as much as possible. Um, what we want to see is hopefully that there is some sort of entity that the individual is utilizing, and then we also want to see that the individual is also either renting or owning a space. Okay, if the individual works from home, that is fine. But if you think about it, if a business is being operated from someone's home, you would then think that the business would have a larger amount of income. Okay, so that's just something that we're looking for on this one page here. Outside of that, we want them to be as honest as possible as far as their annual income, ownership of the entity that they write down here. So, if it's a husband and wife team, we would actually need both on here as borrowers. Okay. The next one is the most important, which is the weekly checklist. This is also a PDF as well. And so with the weekly checklist, essentially what we have here is letting you know that on a weekly basis, you should be able to touch um, everything that's on this checklist. Okay, whether you have one client or 20, You should be able to review your client information to make sure that they don't have anything missing. You want to go ahead and use your CRM to update it at all times in reference to your client. And so you want to basically be in constant communication with your client. You will find out that sometimes certain clients respond better to emails, others respond better to phone calls, text messages, and so forth. You want to use whatever median works best for the client. When you send correspondence, and it's correspondence that requires a response, if you do not receive a response from your client within, give or take, 24 to 48 hours, please, by all means, reach out to your client, speak to them verbally, leave them a voicemail, send them a text message, because what happens a lot of times for commercial finance is that time kills all deals. Time kills all deals. So the longer an application, the longer a deal, the longer a project is sitting, uh, the probability of that transaction crossing the finish line is very, very slim. Okay. So with that being said, you want to constantly be in communication for your client, constantly be in communication with the other party as well, whether it's a hard money lender, whether it's a REIT, whether it is a hedge fund, bank, lender, whatever. It does not matter. You want to make sure that you are in a communication. Okay. Um, if you are communicating with a lender or a hard money lender and you don't have any updates, let them know that you don't have any updates. The last thing you want to do is ruin a relationship that someone in your team has worked hard to earn that hard money or that lender or that person's 401k business, okay, or their IRA, where they're leveraging, $200,000 from the IRA for a project that essentially you're sponsoring or uh, that you are suggesting that your client, utilizes, okay? So please, please, please have open communication, even with the bad things, especially with the bad things. Okay. So just like with here, um, if you're speaking with a prospect, not a prospect, speaking with a new client, and they're talking about, they want to do this, want to do that, stay on top of them. Stay on top of them. If you have requested documents from them and they have not sent them to you, stay on top of them. A lot of people, when it comes to acquisitions, because they view it as something as sexy, fun, and all this other stuff, a lot of people verbally overpromise. And I've seen a lot of clients say, "Oh yeah, I'm excited. Me and my wife really want to buy this new manufacturing company before the end of the year, and we want to get this started, right?" But when it comes time to, and it seems silly and it seems minute, but when it comes time to preparing and doing what's necessary, submitting documents, meeting deadlines, things like that, they drop the ball. What you'll find out for a lot of things, especially with business and especially with acquisitions, the battle is won based off of preparation. So the better someone is prepared, better someone has their ducks in a row, the better they are, likely they're going to win that battle. Okay, so it's the same thing here. You want to make sure too, that I can't say enough. You want to make sure that you follow up with these individuals. Okay, if someone has a question for you and you honestly do not know the answer, if maybe it's an area that we haven't spoken on, maybe it's something that you don't have the most experience on, you acknowledge the question. So, for example, great question, Mr. Fox. I can certainly speak with the banker and find out for you. Or great question, Mr. Fox. I can certainly speak with um, our managing broker. I can definitely speak with our principal and find out for you. Um, when's a good time for me to call you back? Or I'll try my best to call you back before Friday at 3 p.m. okay? Or call you back before Tuesday close of business next week, okay? We just want to make sure that we're not ducking and dodging, all right? Now, because we have a CRM and because everyone will have access to the same CRM, you want to be as detailed as possible on anything that you put in the CRM, okay? The CRM will track communication between the parties that are listed within that deal. But if there's key information that's taking place that is being exchanged, that's being updated, and it's imperative, it's monumental to the transaction or the deal, make a note, okay? Because if you're working on that deal with someone else, or you happen to go to Hawaii for a week, or whatever the case may be, okay? We want your colleague to be able to hit the ground running. We don't want your colleague to look at your pipeline, look at your deal, and wonder what the hell is going on. We don't want that. So do yourself a favor, um, do your colleague a favor, do the company a favor, and keep track by having detailed notes on what is truly corresponding between you, the client, and all parties involved. Okay, so you want to make sure that you review any files and notes. As I said earlier, when you exchange emails back and forth, and there are attachments, the beauty with the CRM as well is that it will also add and record the files too. Okay, all right. Now with the banks, their underwriters, their brokers, their processors, you want to make sure that if they give you 26 check mark, uh, 26 requirements, okay, you want to make sure that you give them what they request, okay? Do not give them more than what they request, and give them exactly what they request, all right? The reason for that is because if you overcompensate, it could actually hurt the underwriting process and the underwriting grade that a client may receive, okay? So you don't want to do that. Um, you do in fact want to have a brief executive summary, and the executive summary is really just going to talk about uh, what the goal is, the reason for the lending or the debt, a very very quick scope of the project, who is involved, the client's liquidity level, experience, risk level, if there are any assets involved, are they willing to um, cross collateral have cross collateralization? Um, are there different components? Is there a team involved? These are the things that you want to include in your executive summary. It does not need to be a page. It could be literally a paragraph. Um, but you want to make sure that you do that ahead of time so that either you can submit it to the lender or for you to have for yourself. Okay. Um, and so you can use part of the 3C worksheet as well as the universal application to kind of gain more of that information. But like I said, it could be a little bit literally be a paragraph. Okay. All right. And then you're also going to have weekly reports. The weekly report is due at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be emailed to administrator at lee-chandler enterprises.com. And what what we're looking for here is something that's about 5 sentences long, five or more sentences long. Okay, and it's just going to address what impact you've made for the week, right? So have you been in contact with your clientele, communication, what have you learned, any challenges, what are your big takeaways, what's the biggest gain, what are your wins for the week? And what this does is it allows us to figure out how effective training is And then, if it is not as effective as we hope or plan, then it lets us know what to add to better the experience and to make sure that you are well equipped to perform the tasks needed. Okay. So, just to recap real quick, you always want to go ahead and update the CRM. Always. You always want to be in consistent communication with the banks, with the lenders, um, and with the clients. Okay. If you have trouble contacting a client, make sure that you call them. Do not be afraid to call. Do not be afraid to pick up the phone and call. Do not be afraid to pick your phone and text. And do not be afraid to send the email. All right. You have to remember that our clients sign an agreement. So when it comes to the acquisitions or the capital or raising capital or debt structure, whatever it may be, it's a partnership. It's something that both parties have agreed on to see through. Okay. So do not be afraid to do that. Now, what if you're working on a transaction? This has happened to me before, where your client has done everything on their end, you have done everything on your end, okay, and both of you to your end are waiting for the bank or the lender or the underwriter to review documents. Okay, you still need to keep in communication with your client, point blank. So the beauty with that is that we live in a technology age. When it comes to commercial finance, things are changing almost on a daily basis. As of this recording, we have a Federal Reserve that is, consistently raising rates. So these are different things in the news, and also with these different links, Google Trends for commercial finance, regular finance, and so forth, that you can gather information. Okay. Scotsman's Guide is a great resource as well. Moody's is a great resource as far as the U.S. and global credit ratings. But you can use any of these links as references, and you can use it as a way to um, essentially add value to your client when you speak with them, to keep them up to date on what's going on, and just to keep them abreast. Because the reason that they're working with you and not doing this on their own is because they trust your skill level and your understanding. And so, by you staying on top of what is currently going on for commercial finance, it really helps you in the long run. There is a website that is not on here that's also fairly good. That website is called Owler, so it's OWLER.com. It's also very, very good for financial updates as well. Okay, so that's the weekly checklist. Like I said, always refer to it. Next, we have prospecting. A majority of this will be for LinkedIn. With the prospecting, uh, you know, people are going to say that we are primarily B2B, business to business, and that's fine in theory. But the truth is that at the end of the day, uh, we do business with other businesses. Okay, so these are the different things you can look at as far as when it comes to prospecting. It will be truly beneficial. You'll also have access to a conference call line. So for those of you who do not wish to give your clients your phone number directly, what you will do instead is that you can send them an email and say, hey, John, I apologize that I missed your call at the office. Let's have a conference call later today at 12:30. I'm going to go ahead and send you the conference line and the access code. Okay, so we have two of those. You can use either or, and that's a really good way to have that verbal communication with your client if you are someone who does not wish to disclose your cell phone number. Okay. And last but not least, we have key components. Um, with the key components, these are things that you want to make sure that you already have. Okay, you already have. So you want to make sure that you have access to a conference line, that you have the You Can Book Me. You can use You Can Book Me or Calendly. They're both the same thing. You want to make sure that you're up to date with the industry information. Make sure that you're viewed as a consultant. Your LinkedIn profile is ready to go. Make sure you're active on social media. Um, and then you can also learn additional things from YouTube as well. So, as heavy as that may have seemed, and I know I rushed through the majority of it, you want to make sure that you at least take time to read the PDFs so that it makes more sense to you. If there are any questions, I am here to answer those questions, happily to do so. But you want to refer to this if you ever find yourself, um, wandering on what to do next. Okay, the weekly checklist is really really good. So, but primarily you always want to make sure that you are staying in good communication with that client. Okay. All right, guys. So that would be it for now, and I will see you all on the next video.